Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Midnight, bringing you another perfect Gauntlet run, this time for the Gauntlet Overflow. Today, I just really wanted to talk more about deck building and less about the actual gameplay. And the first thing I want to start off talking about was one of the newer cards. What might be the most powerful card in the latest change is directly applicable here, which is Ascensius. When I first read the card, I didn't realize that when he does his move at the beginning of the turn, the opponent doesn't swing back. I was completely happy with a 9/9 just charging over and trading with something, and his ability just being able to close any distance, and I thought that was cool already. But the fact that your opponent doesn't strike back, it's like he has immune to return damage, it's great, man. Like, that is pretty much my ideal first drop. I'm really hoping that I get him, and I want to combine it with my 1 cost that lets me discover a Afterlife card, and I'm almost always hoping to get Sylvanas there, because in this match 5 drops are really strong. If you noticed, I have Neith and Thoth in this deck. I also have Book of Thoth. This opens up a lot of play late game. If I can get double execute or double annihilate, double ritual tribune, or even I got double Book of the Dead in one of my games. Well, what ended up happening is you just slam the board with too much crap that's too big for the opponent to deal with. And maybe this is just because I kept running into people who were, again, just playing their normal rank decks that didn't have adjusted mana curves. But it just seemed like as soon as I played 1 Book of the Dead, the opponent was already on the defensive. And if you can play a second one and actually summon 3 more gods, you pretty much can seal the deal at that point. I was able to take back a losing game, which was unfortunately in one of the recorded games that got corrupted. I think I found out why my videos are getting corrupted, so I think I can prevent it from happening going forward, but unfortunately the ones that were there are definitely gone. There's no way to recover them, so there's only 2 of 5 games here. But, you know, it is what it is. So back to the deck. The other card to really point out here is the Thoth. He allows you to do damage. If you stack in a column a bunch of people in heal power, you're going to be able to do multiple damage in that row. And I would usually just use him to ping and kill whatever I couldn't finish off in an easy way, and in that sense I was able to usually maintain a clear board, or both of us would be hanging out on our sides of the board building up forces while I'm getting to take free pot shots with my Thoth, and he's just sitting there and taking it and not really fighting back. These are really both good situations to be in. So the other card that really needs to be highlighted here is Anubis. His Warcry is extremely powerful, but before you play him for the first time, you must know that the center of the quote-unquote area on his card that's targeted and deals damage and roots has to be on the same row as the one that Anubis is on. So keep that in mind when you play him. If you don't, you're not going to be able to get maximum value out of the card, and it's really useful for that ability and not really for his stats, to be honest. So you really want to be getting really good value. The other cards that we really need to focus on are Isis. If you have a decent board and they have a decent board and you play Isis, you're probably going to win the game. You just trade into their stuff and your guys will still be standing. And the other card would be Annihilate, which is pretty much your first pick out of Book of Thoth whenever you get it as a choice. The 4 damage to the opponent's entire board includes their Summoning Stone. So if you get the 2 from the Book of Thoth and the 1 that you naturally have in the deck, it's pretty devastating. Like, you can't really recover from getting your board wiped 3+ times in a game and expect to realistically recover. And the only reason it's possible is because this Gauntlet supplies basically not infinite, but 10 mana a turn. So all these cards that don't normally seem feasible are extremely powerful, because it really comes down to how powerful of an effect, or how powerful of a turn can you make with 10 given mana, and how many turns can you keep that up for, which really comes down to, are you doing that with a lot of cards, or you have a lot of that power condensed into a couple cards, which is having a higher power curve or mana curve, which usually comes with a higher power curve too. And that's the way I'm going at it. What I really want to do here is start every game with a strong opening, either Essentius or Anhur plus Satyr Pathfinder. I really wish I had 2 of each of those, but unfortunately I burned the rest of my Canopic Dust on building one of the other decks for, I believe it was the Bologna deck that I had to craft a bunch of stuff for. But, you know, no regrets. It's just going to take me a little bit to build that back up again. And if I had them, I would definitely be playing 2 of each of those and removing the 2 brutes from the deck. Right here, I believe I might be kind of trying to figure out what I want to get rid of here. I'm not really happy with Last Breath as a card. So although I do play the first game with 2 Last Breaths in the deck, I believe, I swapped those out for Book of Thoughts almost immediately. It gives you a lot stronger endgame, and you really don't give up much tempo, because you're really not worrying about, if you're going to be, let me put it like this, if you're going to be trying to go and do battle with the opponent, the fact that his guys all of a sudden get poisoned, he's going to trade them into your guys anyways. So what's the difference of being poisoned? The only real use of that card is when you're playing a hiding game. And at that point, you're playing a hiding game where everyone has 2 mana at a time. Or 10 mana at a time. If you take too many shots up front from just hiding behind your stone from 7 and 8 cost creatures, you can't take too many turns of that. So it's just important to keep in mind how quickly you could be taken down, and whether when you end your turn you could see how your opponent could kill you or not, and how you could prevent that. By recognizing those points, you can really play around a lot of the strategy your opponent is trying to throw at you. Let's see here. So yeah, other than that, the deck is pretty good and pretty self-explanatory. When you see it in play here in these next 2 games, I think you'll be pretty surprised at how powerful both Essentius and Book of the Dead are in practice. I'll say that I was really surprised at how good Essentius was, to be honest. The first time he smacked a chieftain and killed him, and he was still 9/9 on my turn, I was like, oh yeah, alright, this is my guy. Alright, well guys, if you like this type of content, please like, subscribe, and comment, as it really helps out a new YouTuber like me. And I'll catch you in the games upcoming. Alright, see you soon. Bye. Okay, it looks like this first game is going to be Ra versus Zeus. And okay, so it does look like I did make that Book of Thoth for the Last Breath change before I did get into my first game. So I didn't play any games with Last Breath to start out with. Well, it looks like I got a pretty good start here. I got my Fire Giant, and after that I got a way to block Warcries, which against a Zeus, someone like, let's see here, Thanatos, you got Aphrodite, Nemesis, all these people have very powerful Warcry abilities, so blocking that could be very powerful, or getting out a Book of Thoth and executing whatever he plays on the board is also a pretty strong play, depending on what he drops here. Okay, so Hades is not too bad. It looks like he's going to be trying to get some of these fire imps back into his hand. Hades got changed with the last patch. He no longer increases the cost of enemy gods by 1, but now whenever he kills any creature, the controller of Hades draws that creature to their hand. So it's a very powerful ability and can be very snowbally, but I'm going to be Book of Thothing for a Magma Slam here, and should be really no problem. I'm going to execute 1. Just don't want to give him any kind of steam here in terms of board control and tempo in this game. I really want to keep the fight around his summoning stone rather than having him march on mine. So while Hades is not necessarily the strongest guy, it's just something in the way of me hitting his summoning stone. So for me, this is a really strong play. I got rid of what he's got. I still have my 5/6 and a 2/1 that got to hit the summoning stone. So the pressure is still on. I'm also racking up kills for my Book of the Dead, and if I wanted to play that, there's already 2 Hades deep onto my Book of the Dead. Alright, let's see what he does in response here. Alright, a Brontes, definitely not going to be enough. Still got a lot of mana left and 5 cards. Aphrodite, still not really that great, but now he's got a 4/4 that's kind of a pain to deal with. I couldn't kill it with my guys here, period, I think, right? Oh no, he only gets Protect 1 because he's not a god, that's right. He buffs him as well, but luckily I draw and top deck this Execute. At this point, I can kill and take down the 3rd god for my Book of the Dead and still maintain this very strong board presence, in addition blocking his war cries going forward. With his summoning stone down to 17 health, I gotta say I feel like I kind of won this game, even though we're not there yet. It's just pretty much done. I'm about to take a lot of the board back here with Book of the Dead, and I still have some nukes if I need to use them. Oh, sweet Thoth. This guy is almost an auto drop whenever you get him. He just removes things from the board for free. Something that shouldn't be underestimated. I'm taking more chip shots at the summoning stone, and at this point I have enough damage on board to kill him with enough things that are in range. So we'll see how he reacts to this. Alright, he conceded, good game, and I'll see you in the next match. Hey guys, it looks like it's going to be another Ra versus Zeus, except for this time I'm going to be in the 2nd player position. I have a pretty good start here with Isis and a Voice of Eternity. Hopefully this is going to be like pretty much every other Zeus I've ever played that has a crapload of gods that I can resummon with my Book of the Dead, but I know there are some beast Zeuses running around that are very low on god count, so maybe keeping this could be a little risky here. Him opening with the Arachnus and Aphrodite here, though, gives me a little reassurance that I'm looking pretty good. He burns down one card, throwing a big salvo of cards on the board, and he looks like, to me, a player that is just trying to do this gauntlet with, again, just a normal climbing deck. And that's not really going to pass here. You're not going to be able to recover against a team that is throwing down bombs like Essentius and Brute and Isis and Anubis, or even the Satyr Pathfinder, even that 7/4. That guy is a beast. Restricting, like, could you imagine if I had went first and I went Anner and Satyr Pathfinder and then passed to him? Like, it'd be crazy. He'd have to play one guy, he'd buff it with his hero power and pass. Like, it's crazy. And considering the most expensive one he played was Aphrodite, you wouldn't want to play Aphrodite on an empty board necessarily. So he'd probably play the Spider and buff her, leaving like 5 to 6 mana unplayed. It's just something to keep in mind, and something I had discussed earlier during the deck building part of this video, which is really, you really have to come up with different curves and different points at which your mana curve peaks when you're considering playing a gauntlet where you start with 10 mana every turn. And it really should change the way you play and build your deck. So what I'm going to be doing here is taking out his buffed up 5/5 Aphrodite. I just don't want to deal with that. He put a lot of effort into making it more powerful. It's just easy for me to kill it with 5 mana and get to work on cleaning this board here. Unfortunately, I don't really have too strong of an action here. Although I am running him kind of low on cards. He's down to 2 cards, and he's only got me down to 21 health now as of dropping this Athena. But it's going to be not enough. I just have too much sticky and powerful minions that I'm going to be dropping very shortly, and I don't think he's going to have a response. He just doesn't have enough cards in hand to burst me down, and at the same time, if he's not going to be able to burst me down, losing on card advantage is even worse in trying to have a control on control matchup. So I have a very strong upper hand at this point. I'm going to keep healing my summoning stone just to keep it a little topped off, but other than that, I'm really not worried about what he's going to drop with his next and last 2 cards in hand. Looks like he's got another Arachne. Not really worried about the Arachne, to be honest. So the bigger threat here is the 5/8 Athena he's got, but cool, Essentius. At the same time, I'm really not worried about the Athena too. Here I'm probably just going to take the Sunder. I'm really considering the Celestial Armor to give me some time to stall out, but probably just take the damage. There we go. Definitely need to kill him off. He's really the only threat to my summoning stone at this point. So what I'm going to do is, I wouldn't say go all in, but I'm going to definitely dedicate a lot of resources to taking him out and leaving the only threat left a bunch of 1/1s and 1/2s on the board. I can start mounting my offense at this point. I'll probably be going for Book of the Dead here, although Essentius wouldn't be too bad. It's just with all these small creatures, it's not really worth it, to be honest. He's really best used when you're casting it against a blank board. They drop their response, and your Essentius is going to just take out one of those at the very beginning and take no damage in the response. He's not really best at dealing with a bunch of little spiders. So instead I'm going to be using my Book of the Dead here and getting back a bunch of well, a bunch of his gods, to be honest, but hey, you know, mercenaries are mercenaries. I'll take whatever help I can get. And at this point I feel I've completely turned around the game and have blocked off a good amount of access to my summoning stone, and I'm only facing down this Arachne here. So with him down to 2 cards, me at 4, and having strong cards in hand like Essentius and Isis, and to a lesser extent Neith, I don't feel like he has any threat in me taking this game at this point. So let's see how he plays out his turn, and then we'll watch how I close this out. So he's getting Protect here. The thing is, I really don't care about him having some 1/1s with 2 Protect on it. At the very least, all it is annoyance. So what I'm going to do here is give all my guys Afterlife to resurrect and just clear this board off. There shouldn't be much left other than a couple spiders at the end of this, but he's pretty much neutralized considering he's down to 1 card at this point, and I have such threatening stats already on the board. Alright, he's got 1 more Hades. It's definitely a card that you can snowball back into some card advantage and possible future board advantage, but he's far from being able to do that at this point. Looks like he's going for a silence on my Fire Giant to get rid of the Afterlife. It's a good play. It's definitely not enough, but still a good play. So now that I get another Essentius, you're going to see the power of him right here. I'm going to be dropping the Essentius and killing the last other creature on the board. So what we're doing is forcing this Hades out of a spot where he can attack anything, and oh, that's too bad. He had the Heaven's Fury or whatever, that card that gives you extra mana every turn. I don't even know why he has that in a deck where you're playing a mode where you have 10 mana every turn. What's the point of that, buddy? I don't get it. Alright, well, looks like he surrendered as well. And unfortunately, because of the corrupted games, I'm going to be showing you the icon here and the proof. And hopefully you guys will tune in next time. I'll be getting out that part 2 of the Highlander video probably early tomorrow. So please like, comment, and subscribe. And hope you guys are liking this. I'm enjoying putting out the content. See you guys on the next one.